Hey, what's up, y'all? This year's been kind of crazy with everything, and I was just kind of just reflecting back on the year because that's what I try to do. I'm not really a big fan of resolutions, but I really just want to kind of talk through about five of the biggest lessons that I learned from this pretty much this year, kind of struggle and failure. I'm not gonna lie, I think this year could have went a heck of a lot better for me. In Ocean Connection as a whole, it kind of sucked. I learned a lot. I learned a hell of a lot, but it kind of sucked. I'm not gonna lie. But here are a couple lessons I learned. One, fire fast. I know it sounds stupid, and I know it's probably not the right piece of advice, but in your early stages of a company, if you have a toxic, person or someone that isn't able to buy in the way that you are wanting to buy in, and after you've communicated to that, like, you need to be able to put your foot down. I think I was a lot more passive in what I wanted early on this year, and I didn't really have a direction. I will be completely honest in that. And I kind of had a wrong strategy of going about things, and I definitely could have made a lot of better calls. And honestly, a lot of that stuff was on me. I think a lot of those problems wouldn't have came up if I was able to, if coronavirus wouldn't have hit when it did. But yeah, it was really hard, and you have to be able to be a jerk sometimes. You don't have to be everyone's friend. That's a really freaking hard thing for me. And at the end of the day, like, hey, like, this is a business. It's like we're still trying. Like, I get it. Like, I want to create this culture and I want to do this really awesome thing, but if it's kind of bogged down by someone that doesn't buy in or has a different vision for what their role is than what you need to be able to communicate that and then be able to make a call and go in separate ways if need be. So that was a really freaking tough lesson to learn, freaking especially. But hey, man, it's like you gotta realize this stuff, and you gotta put yourself in a position where you can learn from it. And holy crap, did I do it! I literally remember, I thought back about, like, I had another big thing in this year, and I thought back on that thing when I was like trying to figure out how can I create a positive work culture, and I was like, man, like, I don't think I'd hire this person. And then it's a thing where you just gotta think, wow, like, is this improving the culture that I want to create, or is this taking away from it? And that was taking away from it. You got to make the decision fast. If you realize that it's going bad, it's not gonna get better for a while. Like, you got to be able to be patient. Don't get me wrong, but the freaking lesson was like, there's some freaking horses that you got to just shoot. I know it sounds horrible, awful business lesson, but it was really hard, and it's like, it's painful. You like this horse, but it's like, they're not running. You got to do it. Like, you're not out here. If you have people that are hustling, that's different. It is much different. You got people that are freaking pounding the pavement, that are doing stuff, are working their asses off. Those are the people you want to bet on. But if you have someone that's kind of being complacent, that is where you start having those conversations, and then you have the difficult one, and then you, like, separate, and like, hey, wish them the best. Hope you're doing well. But it's like, there's the freaking hard lesson. That is a hard lesson to learn. And that's the thing with entrepreneurship. Before I got into it, I didn't really know. Like, man, like, freaking, I went to college. It's stupid. Like, that should be like the lesson number one, is how to freaking fire someone, or how to fire, like, an agency, how to separate, how to break ties, how to basically, like, improve your situation by separating and making those improvements. And yeah, that was really, man, it was a really tough lesson. Probably, and then, so yeah, so, fire fast. Like, don't, if you see something that's not working, just don't keep swinging the axe. If you're swinging with the wrong end of the axe, yeah. The second thing that I really learned this year, a lot of business stuff. There's a lot. I learned a hell of a lot. But yeah, there's, like, in terms of client acquisition, cold calls, don't set up meetings very well anymore. We're definitely in a market shift, especially for my client base. It was a lot, like, it was really hard for me to get on the phone and then close from there. Like, I also might just suck. Don't get me wrong, but in terms of what I was doing, I figured out, like, I know, like, because the goal is like, basically just like, I'm calling people like, hey, buy my stuff. Hi, I'd like you to buy my stuff, and that's, like, pretty much it. But yeah, like, on Facebook, I've been having a much better time with getting conversations, getting meetings, getting sit downs, just by messaging people, by talking to small businesses, by basically saying, hey, we have this platform that we'd love you to join our community. I've been having a much better time at that. Still not the best, but hey, I'm getting, more opens than I ever did when I was cold calling. Because most people, when they call in, they're like, there already is this thing where like you're a scammer, you're trying to get their business information, and you're already starting off in that. So I was like, from Facebook, it's like they can literally see my page. They can see, hey, I'm from Colorado Springs. I'm from Colorado. They know me. They can see that, hey, I have all this content posted. So I'm not a bot. That's like the number one fear. It's like, is this guy a freaking bot and is gonna take my credit card information and scam me? Like, and that's like where I come from there. And it's like they can see me and they're like, oh yeah, this is a guy. He has a Facebook page. It looks pretty good. They have all these different resources for small businesses. He's bringing a lot of value. But yeah, so freaking cold calls, not really working for the whole small business side of things when you're trying to target that market. At least for me, that was a really big lesson that I learned. And that's kind of like a bigger picture thing in terms of a metaphor, because it was like I was swinging the axe really hard, but it was pretty much like I was holding the axe head and hitting it with the wood part. It's like, yeah, the tree might eventually come down, but wouldn't it be better if you turned the axe around and swung it? And that's my thing. Number 3 thing is that I need to stick to a schedule really bad. That is probably the biggest thing. Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing for me, especially being, an entrepreneur and trying stuff. It's like, you gotta be able to stick to a schedule, man. Like, you gotta have that calendar on freaking lockdown. And hey, when it's work time, it's work time. When it's play time, it's play time. You can't get those two things intermixed. No matter what they say, is like, oh, you can pick your own hours. It's like, dude, you gotta have freaking boundaries set in place for yourself. And I gotta be my harshest critic. And that's what I kind of grown into later into this year. Man, it was a really hard lesson to learn, but it's like I still got it. It's like I gotta be like, hey, like, you gotta wake up. Like, there's no hit the snooze button. It's like, it's do or die now. And yeah, that was the whole thing. That was probably my biggest thing, probably this year, because it was like, now I have my days scheduled. Like, it's like basically I'm sticking to this method that Elon Musk did, where you literally schedule every 5 minutes and be like, hey, this is bathroom time. This is like literally that stupid stuff. This is where I'm making content. That's what I'm trying to be on, because I think that that's going to be my big X factor as a company. I think that content is what businesses and startups like mine suck at. Like, man, imagine how cool it would be if you saw Airbnb when they sucked and when they were trying to make $700 and they were talking about those problems. Yeah, like, that would be so cool. And that's what I'm trying to do with my company. I'm like, man, I wish I could be alongside those. I wish I could, like, man, I wonder, like, my what's in my head, right, is I see me, right, and I have this vision of me in 10 years, right, where I'm trying to chase this version, where there's some, crappy student that's 18, you're about to graduate high school, is going through all this crap, and he's thinking about, like, oh, should I go to college, what should I do, I'm super lost. And they'll think, and they'll be like they've always hustled, they've always tried business stuff, and they just have never really tried to pull the trigger, and they'll be like, man, I wish there was like a guy that I could kind of see his journey, and like, I really want that to be me. And I think I can be me, and I think it will be me, because I suck at a lot of stuff, man. I suck at a lot of things. I try really hard, and I learn a lot. And man, just freaking reflecting on this year, it was so shitty. But it gave me a lot of perspective, being like, I have so much that I gotta be grateful for. But yeah, it was like this calendar thing. Yeah, it's it. That's like the really, really big deal. Like, have a calendar and stick to it. That's like one of if like I'm writing a book of like 5 bullet points, that is gonna be probably one of my top 5. Have a calendar and stick to it. Like, that's really, really big. And be like, how can you define and shrink the amount of time you work? Yeah, that's a really big one for me overall. Yeah, so what's the next one? Probably next 4th biggest lesson I learned this year. You gotta make content. Like, it means something. Like, getting on a podcast and like trying to start a podcast and making more content that brings value to your customer base and your audience base. That's really big. I know it's always gets harped on, but you really just got to put in the work. And there's a lot of efficient ways that you can do things. And, I think content's no different. And I've been getting a lot better at that. Admittedly, I'm not perfect. It kind of sucks sometimes. But yeah, there's this. I think people don't realize that it's pretty much free advertising. Like if you're not posting on your business page for your small business, or your personal page, you're trying to start like a coaching business, or even if you're a freaking massage artist, showing what happens in massage, that's really phenomenal for those people that are coming in for the first time that have never gotten a massage before. They're like, here's